Welcome to Debt Matters, the show where we help you get a handle on your household finances and, maybe more importantly, sidestep some of those nasty surprise bills that can really throw a budget off course.
Today, we're looking at something that affects so many people, and that's moving house here in Great Britain. We've been looking at a new proposal from the regulator, Ofgem,
Right?
and it's all about how energy accounts get set up. It's said to, well, completely change the clock on getting your gas and electricity sorted when you land in a new place.
And this isn't just some small administrative change, is it? We're
Yeah.
talking about a system that, as it stands, kind of lets this huge collective debt build up just because moving house is so chaotic.
It does.
So our job today is really to unpack this proposal. It's designed to get a grip on that rising energy debt, and we want to explain why, if you're planning a move, you'll have to act fast. It's moving from a good idea to a must-do.
That's the core of it. The regulator is tackling a situation where, there's this really long grace period for setting up an account. And it's created this persistent pool of unpaid bills. Bad debt, they call it.
And that bad debt, it doesn't just disappear.
No, of course not. It gets factored into the operating costs for suppliers, which means eventually every single one of us ends up paying a little bit more to cover it.
So let's start there then. This debt landscape in Britain right now. Just how big is this unpaid energy problem? And how does it really hit someone who, always pays their bill right on time?
Well, the numbers are pretty high. We're seeing some of the highest levels of customer arrears the sector has ever had. And we talk about this bad debt. It's not just a few missed payments here and there.
No.
We're talking billions of pounds worth of energy that's been used but hasn't been paid for right across the country. And for the person who does pay on time, that cost is, well, it's unavoidable. Suppliers have to account for these losses.
They just build it into their pricing models.
Exactly. They build it into the calculations for future prices. So if you shrink that pool of bad debt, you put downward pressure on costs for everybody. That's why Ofgem is stepping in. They see this as a cost spiral that needs to be controlled.
And what we found when looking at the details is that the current process, especially for home movers, has this flaw that almost guarantees debt will be created.
That's the critical point. The data on this is, frankly, staggering.
Yep.
On average, it takes households around 70 days after moving to formally set up an energy account.
70 days.
70, 2 months and 10 days. All that time, you're using gas, you're using electricity, but the actual liability for it is just sort of floating.
Well, you're busy, right? You're unpacking boxes, trying to get broadband set up, changing your address everywhere. I can see how the energy bill gets pushed down the list.
Of course. But that energy isn't free. During that 70-day lag, it's being supplied under what's called a deemed contract. And the bill is just addressed to the occupier.
So legally, whoever is living there is on the hook for it.
Yes, but the supplier doesn't actually know who that person is yet. So they can't accurately bill you. They can't chase the debt. They're just stuck.
So what does that mean for the person who's just moved in when the music finally stops?
It means a huge financial shock. When that account is finally set up, maybe on day 70, you suddenly get hit with a massive backdated bill covering that whole period. And if it's winter, during a cold snap, that bill could easily be 400, maybe 500 pounds. If you weren't expecting that, it can push you straight into arrears. And that's why that 70-day window is the target.
Okay, so the problem's clear. The current way of doing things almost encourages delay and creates risk. So what's the fix? What's Ofgem's plan to get rid of that 2-month grace period?
It's a pretty bold move, and it's really only possible because of the rollout of smart meters.
Okay.
The whole proposal really hinges on suppliers being able to talk to the meter remotely.
Okay, so walk us through it. What's the new process look like?
It starts with notification. When the old resident moves out and tells their supplier, the property gets flagged. And here's the big change. The supplier can then remotely switch the meter from a normal credit mode.
Where you pay after you've used the energy?
Right. They switch it into prepayment mode.
So you have to pay up front. That stops any new debt from building up. But hang on. What if you arrive late on a Sunday night? The house is cold and dark, and the meter's at 0. You could be cut off immediately. That seems risky.
It would be, and that's why there's a safeguard built in. The proposal says the new occupier would get an automatic 30-pound emergency credit buffer put straight onto the meter.
So you've got some breathing room.
Exactly. It's designed to cover those first few chaotic days, let you get the lights on, find your feet, and crucially, contact a supplier.
30 pounds, that's a very specific number. But in winter, how much time does that actually buy you? The old deadline was 70 days. What's the new one?
Well, based on typical usage, that 30 quid is expected to last for about a fortnight. About 2 weeks, yes. That is the new hard deadline. It replaces that fuzzy 70-day period with a very clear, very firm limit.
A fortnight feels doable if you've planned your move, but moving can be so chaotic. What about someone in an emergency situation? A sudden job change, a family crisis? That 30 pounds covers the heating, sure, but it doesn't give you any extra time to sort out the admin.
And that's a key point. It covers the physics of it, but not the logistics. And the consequence is what drives the whole thing. Once that 30 pounds is gone, if you haven't opened an account and topped up, your supply could be cut off.
So it's a complete shift in responsibility.
It is. It's forcing the consumer to identify themselves and take financial responsibility within 2 weeks, instead of the supplier hoping to chase a big bill 2 months later.
It's enforced transparency, really.
That's a good way to put it. The risk shifts from the supplier to the individual from day one.
But wait, what about all the older houses that don't have smart meters yet? How does the remote switching work for them?
It doesn't. And that's a major limitation here. This proposal is really focused on properties with smart meters. For older traditional meters, the current system of deemed contracts and back billing would, for now, likely continue.
So you end up with a two-tier system for a while.
For a while, yes.
Ah.
The success of this really depends on the smart meter rollout continuing at pace.
Okay, so focusing on the majority with smart meters, what does this actually mean for anyone planning to move house soon?
It means you have to completely change your priorities. Setting up your energy has to be right up there with getting the keys. The days of taking your time to pick a tariff are, well, they're gone if you want the lights to stay on.
It means immediate contact with the supplier, fast onboarding, and getting meter readings the second you walk through the door.
All of that. And beyond just the urgency, we have to talk about protecting people.
Yes.
Because this kind of immediate pressure could really hit certain groups harder than others. Consumer groups are watching this very closely.
So who are we most concerned about? Who needs specific protections if the supply can just be cut off after 2 weeks?
There are a few key groups. First, vulnerable households. People who rely on medical equipment, for example. Losing power isn't an inconvenience for them. It's a direct health risk. Then you have people who are digitally excluded, or maybe don't speak English as a first language. Navigating a new system in a fortnight could be incredibly difficult. And renters, too. They often have to wait for landlords to give them the details they need.
So the debate is going to be about making sure there are clear protections, exemptions, and vulnerability checks that have to happen before anyone's supply is cut.
Absolutely. There would need to be a rule, for example, that if a supplier knows an address is linked to a vulnerable customer, they simply can't activate that remote switch to prepayment until a human has made contact and set up a plan. The system has to be smarter than just a simple switch.
Let's change tack for a moment, because the regulator's analysis turned up something else connected to moving house, but this is about money owed back to the customer.
Yes, this was a really eye-opening part of it. It just shows how messy the whole process is. Ofgem has found that there are literally hundreds of millions of pounds in customer credit just sitting in closed energy accounts, unclaimed.
Hundreds of millions. So if you're listening and you've moved in the last few years, you could actually be owed a refund. How does that even happen?
Well, when you move out, you often have credit built up, especially if you pay by direct debit. In the chaos of the move, people forget to give a final meter reading, or the final bill gets sent to the old address and they never see it.
And the money just sits there.
The supplier holds on to it, waiting for someone to claim it. It really highlights that sorting out your account, not just when you move in, but also when you move out, is so important. You could be leaving cash on the table.
So it's a two-sided coin. Act fast to avoid new debt, and be diligent to reclaim old credit.
That's it. To sort of sum up the new reality here, setting up your energy account is now a day 1 job, not a day 71. The regulator's goal makes sense, protecting the whole system from rising debt. But it definitely puts all the pressure on the individual to act fast.
So we need a new checklist for moving, one for this much shorter time frame. What are the absolute must-dos to avoid that 2-week cutoff?
It's all very front-loaded. First, take meter readings the moment you get the keys. A photo on your phone is perfect, with the date and time.
Good tip.
Second, find out who the current supplier is immediately. It's often on a sticker on the meter, or you can get it from the estate agent. Third, open an account in your name within that first week. Don't leave it. Get off that expensive deemed rate onto a proper tariff as quickly as possible.
And the final point, which feels most important?
Is if you think you'll struggle, or if you know you're in a vulnerable category, contact that supplier right away. Don't wait for the emergency credit to start running low.
Ask for support from the get-go.
Yes, that first call is your lifeline. It gives them time to flag your account and apply those protections we talked about. If you wait until the last minute, you take away their ability to help you.
This whole shift towards immediate accountability, it's a real change in how we're expected to manage essential services. The era of the long grace period seems to be coming to an end.
It does. And it leaves a final question for you, the listener, to think about. We're seeing the system adapt to limit this kind of delayed debt for gas and electricity. So what other household services are built on that same collect later model? Think about council tax or your water bill. Could this move from Ofgem set a precedent? Could we see those grace periods shrink across the board, forcing all of us to get our admin sorted on day one? Something to explore on your own.